Hello and welcome to another bonus episode of Innocence Lost. In today's video, we're going to retrace the steps that Jennifer Ertman and Elizabeth Pena took through Jester Park. Having watched quite a few videos on this case, I've noticed that there are some discrepancies when it comes to understanding the route that the girls took through the park. In this video, I'll be attempting to clear up some of the misinformation about this case. Now, before we get started, I would like to mention that for the purposes of this recording, I'll be using a video from a TikTok user named Lando23H1X. Under normal circumstances, I don't like to use other people's material, but since there isn't a lot of footage of this park to begin with, and I don't live just down the street from here either, I reluctantly decided to make an exception in this case. So thank you to Lando for making this recording available. I have included a link to his TikTok account in the description for this video. So we're going to start off in a location that's just to the west of where the girls encountered the gang. This part of the tracks that the cameraman is walking down is actually a portion that Jennifer and Elizabeth never walked along themselves. I used to think that they were in this general area, but the part that they came from is actually going to be up ahead a bit, and it'll be off to a right. The time in which the girls were in the park is also an unknowable aspect. Some sources claim they were there as early as 10:45. However, the court records indicate that it was most likely later than that, sometime between 11:15 and 11:30 p.m. Now, the time is a very important detail in this case because, as we know, they were taking the shortcut so as to make Elizabeth's curfew, or at least that's the official explanation as to why they were going through the park. Now, the spot that we're coming up to, that's just before the bridge, is the area where the crime occurred at. Jennifer and Elizabeth would have walked up this gravel slope, and as they were making their way up to the top, they would have encountered the Sandoval brothers, who were two of the gang members that were there present at the gang initiation ceremony. The Sandoval brothers really didn't do anything at all. They just continued to walk along. Shortly after they reached the top is basically when they ran into the gang members. I believe it would have been right around this spot, most likely, that they would have encountered the gang members. The route that the cameraman is taking right now is going in the general direction of Jester Boulevard. This is, of course, the way that the girls would have gone back home. That was what they were trying to do. And if you look off in the distance, you can probably see a couple of cars going by every once in a while. That's the road they were trying to reach. Now I'm going to pause the video here for a minute, and you might be able to see off in the distance there's a area here where you can kind of see a couple of buildings. This is actually a storage unit, and back 30 years ago when Jennifer and Elizabeth made this trip, it was actually a field. So there was a single light from what I was able to see from the pictures from back then, and just a field that they would have walked through. And then there's a fence, which you can't really see very well from this video clip, but there's a fence there. They would have kind of gone in between the fence. The fence was connected with a chain. They would have been able to slip through the fence, and then they would have walked all the way up to the train tracks and, of course, the trestle that the cameraman is on right now. The water runway that you see underneath is the White Oak Bayou. From what I understand, the water level was a bit higher, unfortunately, on this particular night also, so Jennifer and Elizabeth would not have had the option to cross over it and then go up on the other side of the trestle to have avoided the gang. Another unfortunate element to this particular story. So we're going to get our first real look here at the slope itself, and as we can tell, it's quite steep. I would imagine it would be very difficult to walk up something like that late at night. Another interesting thing about this is that you'll notice when the cameraman reaches the ground level, you can really see on the other side quite easily. This is something that I didn't know about when I first made Innocence Lost Part 2. I had assumed you really couldn't see what was on the other side, but based off of this video, it appears that you can really see what would be on the other side. Of course, I really can't say, you know, what you would be able to see under those conditions. It was a moonless night, so I would think they probably would not have really been able to see the people on the other side of the bridge, but I don't know. It's impossible to say on that. So we're now going up the hill, and we're going in the general direction of the memorial benches. And once again, this is an area that Jennifer and Elizabeth never walked through. This is an area where I thought initially they were able to make it to. I kind of thought the gang was maybe somewhere up here, but they weren't. They were on the other side of the bayou. And we've now reached the benches. This is the one for Jennifer Ertman, and the one over here is for Elizabeth Pena. So hopefully you guys found this video to be interesting. I'm glad I was able to give a little bit more insight as to kind of what happened. I know this case can be kind of confusing because there's a lot of different stories about what actually happened on that night, but hopefully this kind of gives a better layout for the way that things unfortunately went down. Please leave me a comment in the comment section down below if you have anything you'd like to say about this case, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you at the next one.